Okay, so I absolutely loved this movie, and it had such a wonderful theatrical release. What made you decide that coming out with a DVD was the best option for the best Christmas pageant ever?
Well, you know, even though you're really thrilled when a movie comes out in theaters and you want people to see it on the big screen, the overwhelming majority of people are going to see this movie at home. And of course, every Christmas, you hope to create a little bit of a Christmas classic, a Christmas tradition. I mean, I've watched It's a Wonderful Life, which is my favorite movie of all time, every single Christmas, as long as I can remember. And that's how I want people to engage with the best Christmas pageant ever, is that every Christmas, you hope that whether they've got a, if they got a DVD or Blu-ray player, they're going to pop in the disc, or if they're going to watch it and, digitally, that they'll stream it. But we're just, hopeful that this year and next year, and that, maybe if you and I are talking about other projects in 15 years, you'll still be able to say, yeah, I just enjoyed the best Christmas pageant ever, last year. It's my part of my Christmas tradition. And so that's of course the goal. So yeah, I loved it on the big screen, but I know that for the next however long as this movie is around, that people will be watching it at home.
That definitely was the case for my family. We quickly adopted it as a Christmas tradition. We haven't figured out the exact day, because we like to do a Christmas movie every day, so we haven't figured out the exact day, but it so fast became, oh yes, this is a movie we have to watch every year. With so much content streaming nowadays, why do you think DVDs still matter, especially for a story like this?
Well, there's a lot of people who are a little bit old school, and there's some people who are a little bit older who just haven't figured out the streaming thing yet. They still like the tactile, putting the disc into the player and pushing play. I think there's also something that's really lovely about owning something in your home, right? Look, we have streaming. We have all the streaming platforms. I love streaming. I don't watch DVDs quite as much, obviously, as I used to. But there's still something, I think, Christmassy about the gift of a DVD or a Blu-ray, right? And so I think that best Christmas pageant ever, part of the Christmas spirit of it is that some people will give it as a gift. And I think on Christmas, opening up and seeing the lovely packaging and saying, okay, I own this now. This is in my home. There's something really, really lovely about that. I know most people don't do it anymore, but I still think it's wonderful. And I think that a story like this, a Christmas story, I hope that is somehow on people's shelves for a long time.
Yes, I absolutely loved it. I was so excited. Like I said, I loved the movie when it first came out last year. And I was so excited to see that there's even more to it with this DVD release. Fans, we always love extra stuff. We love behind the scenes. We love things like that. Can you give us a little taste of what do you get also, not just the movie, but when you buy the DVD, you get all these extra special things?
Yeah, so we've got some bloopers. We've got some, which I always love. We've got some behind-the-scenes featurettes that we really put a lot of time into. That I really think you're going to love, because the story of the making of this movie and how passionate I am, but I think all of us who worked on it are, is really a wonderful story. And I think that when we were putting together some of the extra content for this, I said, look, it needs to be great. I don't want just kind of routine, just kind of the typical interviews and, this is why you should like this movie. There's a story behind it that I think is really lovely. And I think that speaks to Christmas. It speaks to the birth of Christ. It speaks to the power of storytelling to bring people closer to God, and to the story of this movie, which is about loving the least of these, loving people you don't normally want to love, of bringing people into the family of God, into church that you normally might be scared of. I think that the story behind the story is really, really interesting, and I think the extras on these DVDs and Blu-rays are really going to be meaningful. They're not just promotional. It's something that really allows you to engage further into the story.
And that's something I feel like is unique kind of in the Hollywood world. You kind of just see the movie, but with you, it's like every project you work on, there's such a rich story behind it. And you just see God's hand all over it.
Yeah, I have always wanted the audience, if they choose, if they want to see the story, to get a peek behind the curtain. And that's been essential for The Chosen, because The Chosen has been crowdfunded, and I always feel like, especially when it comes to my movies and my shows, where I'm telling the stories of Jesus in some way, whether it's modern or whether it's first century, the audience needs to trust me. It needs to trust that this story is in the hands of someone who really loves this story and who loves the Bible. And so I let them see the making of it. I let them get a peek behind the curtain so they can trust me. And so that's been a part of every project that I've done. We show you behind the curtain. We let you have access. We want you to feel like you were there, and in the making of it, if you choose. Some people don't want that. They just want the magic of the story, and they don't want to know how it was done. But if you want an idea of how this was done, and especially, more importantly than anything else, why it was done, you're going to get that in all my projects, and you're going to get that in the special features of this project as well.
Which I love, because I mean, with the Blu-ray, you get the best of, I mean, all three worlds. You get the DVD, you get the movie, you get the behind-the-scenes extra stuff, and then you also get the digital streaming, edition. So it's like, it's just a win-win-win all around.
Yes, it's a cornucopia of Christmas delights.
Now, you talked about this story. It's all about loving the least of those, and one of the stars of the film is Beatrice. Schneider. Beatrice Schneider. Beatrice. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. And her performance is absolutely incredible. She won the Movieguide Award because of how amazing. And it was funny. I actually interviewed her, and I didn't recognize her at all. I just saw, I was like, oh, she's such a sweet, lovely girl. And then, it wasn't until she was walking onto the stage for the award that I was like, that was her?
Yes, I know.
She is insane. What did you see? What was her audition like? What did you see in the audition where you saw that this sweet, lovely girl could transform into the tough?
Right. So that was the key, is we're auditioning for what is probably the most important role in the movie, which is Imogen Herdman. She's the worst kid in history. She's a bully. She's tough. But there's also a tenderness that has to emerge, even though you don't see it, and she doesn't want you to see it. It emerges a little bit because she's the one who's kind of taking care of her family, because her dad's not around, her mom's rarely at home. And then, of course, at the end of the movie, not to give too much away, but she's the one who portrays Mother Mary in the pageant. And there's an emotional turn that takes place that is very difficult to find an actress to pull off, who can be both tough and dominant and taking over a room, but then also tender and emotional. And so we saw lots and lots of actresses for this, and it was very hard to find. And then she comes on, and there's something in her eyes. There's something in her, a vulnerability that my wife and I immediately saw. And I'm like, this girl is we have to cast this girl. Now, the hard part for her was playing the toughness, right? To be a bully didn't come naturally to her because she's such a sweetheart. And when we finally saw her pull that off, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky, so fortunate to have this girl. And yeah, there's a reason she got the Best Actress Award at the Movieguide Awards, even among all these adults. She was extraordinary, and she pulls off all the key scenes in the movie. And I remember so many times people have said to me after they've seen the movie, they're like, where did you get this girl? So her audition, we auditioned her 4 or 5 times, flew her to Texas, where I live, to meet with her, because this was such an important role in the studio behind the film. They were like, we can't get this wrong. We got to, and so they wanted to see as many people as possible, but she was the right choice from the beginning.
That's so sweet, and made me so happy that she was absolutely the right choice. It was funny when I was watching the movie. I think a lot of people that I was talking to and my friends, they thought I would resonate with. I'm sorry, is it Beth?
Beth, she's the narrator and the daughter of the woman who directs the pageant.
Yes, everyone thought I would resonate with Beth and understand her, but Imogen, I 100% understood, because I didn't come to faith until I was older, and so there were so many Christian phrases and stories that everyone heard a million times that I was like, wait, how did they catch Jesus? Like, why did he die? Like, all these things that you see Imogen come to you for the first time. So when you were writing this script, and it was based off the amazing book, but when you were writing the script, who did you have in mind for this movie? You know, like who were you writing this movie for?
Yeah, that's the beauty of the book and the beauty of this story is that if you've been a Christian your whole life and you know the story very well, you're going to identify with the people who go to the church and people who put on the pageant every year. And yet you're also, though, going to experience this Christmas story in a fresh way because the Christmas pageant is portrayed through the eyes of this girl who's never heard the story before. But then also, if you're someone who isn't as familiar with the story, who you don't go to church, maybe you're not a believer yet, that's what's so beautiful about the story is you can identify then with Imogen, you can identify with this family. And you kind of see the journey through their eyes and you're asking questions that you wanted to ask yourself that maybe you're not comfortable asking because you feel out of place, but Imogen has no problem with it. So she speaks for you. And so that's my favorite thing about this story is that it really is for everybody. There isn't a viewer who can't identify with one of the characters, one of the key characters. And I think that's one of the reasons why this movie did well with critics. Why it did well at the box office and the audience wasn't just Christians is that there's someone and something for everybody in this movie that you can identify with, and it's a traditional Christmas film. I mean, it's got all the usual things that you see in Christmas films as well. It's just missing. It's got what a lot of these other Christmas films miss, which is the true story of Jesus, the true meaning of Christmas, and so we're hopeful that it can join the pantheon of classic Christmas films like Elf and It's a Wonderful Life and Home Alone, and that this movie can join that because this movie really does give you the ultimate true meaning of Christmas.
It so does. When you were working on this film, were you surprised? Did you have any shift in your own mindset while you were filming? Were you like, oh, I never realized that about myself, or that changed my outlook on Christmas or maybe on God?
Well, that for sure happens when I do The Chosen, in the sense that you're studying the stories of the gospel so often, and you just learn something new each time. I will say, I'd been preparing for this movie for 20 years. I mean, I read this book 20 years ago. I was laughing, I was crying. I couldn't even read the last chapter. I was crying so hard because my tears were just streaming down my face, and my kids were like, what is going on with Dad? And my wife was like, all right, let me read it. Then she's crying. I closed the book and I said, I have to make this movie. So I've been chasing the rights to this movie for 20 years. I've been preparing it in my head. So I will say that this is one of those projects where there were very few surprises because I had been planning for it and working on it and hoping I would get a chance to do it for so long that by the time I had a chance to do it, I just had to execute it how it had been in my head for 20 years.
That's amazing. I love the way you talked about it. It wasn't just kind of your experience. Like you read it and then you were crying, and then your wife read it and you were crying. Then you probably had to, explain to your kids. And that's what I felt like when I watched this movie, that this is really a movie for families to sit around and watch together. And you guys have this same experience, but so many conversations can come out from this movie because it explores so many different avenues. What's a conversation or what's a message that you hope families take away when they see this movie?
Something that really stands out to me about this story is that it's not in spite of the herdmen's poverty and struggle that they come to understand who Jesus is. In many ways, it's because of their poverty and their struggle that they understand who Jesus is. We who are in kind of a safe, maybe protected, privileged environment can sometimes take for granted how Jesus came into the world and who he was and who he served. And the herdmans, because of their struggle, because of their poverty, have this insight into the story of Jesus and the story of Mary of Joseph that we miss out on when we just think of it through the eyes of, in the portrayals of these perfect paintings and the perfect little nativity scene where everything looks clean and safe and nice. And I think that for those of us who maybe have taken that for granted, to remember that Mary and Joseph were in poverty, that there was struggle, and that's what Jesus came into, and that's how Jesus lived. But that's maybe closer to the heart of God, is the poor and the struggling.
Yes, that's so amazing in that movie. The movie does convey it so, so beautifully. For everyone watching who wants to know when they can rush out and buy this DVD for their friends, for their family, and to sit around and watch it, when does this hit stores?
So I believe, and forgive me if I'm getting this wrong, but I think it's October 28th is the date where the DVD and Blu-ray comes out. Of course, it's available via streaming. So yes, on October 28th. Yes, I just got that note. So October 28th is when you can get this as a gift. So buy it now. If you want to stream it, of course, you can do that. But hopefully this is, you're buying it now. You're buying it on the 28th and up until Christmas, but you're giving it away as a gift. So hopefully everyone's buying at least 2 copies, one for themselves and one to give away. But I'm hopeful that from now until Jesus comes, people are going to be enjoying this movie in every facet, whether it's DVD, Blu-ray, or streaming, and enjoying this as a Christmas classic.
Absolutely. I know my family will. I guarantee you more people will also.
Good. Well, thanks for that.
Well, thank you so much, Dallas. This has been so much fun. I always love talking to you and loving talking to you about your projects. You're so passionate, and God's light just oozes out of you.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. Thank you for your support.
Thank you so much.